Hey, this is Phil Lilley, Lilley's Landing Resort and Marina on Lake Taneycomo. Going to do one cast today. It's the 12th of December, Thursday. I boated up here just above the resort. Going to fish this inside bank. They're running 2 units of water. I'm going to try using, this is a PJ 1/50th ounce brown and burnt orange jig with an orange head, and I've got a float that I'm going to set about, let's go 6 feet deep. I've got a 4-pound line. And I'm using a 7-foot or a 7-foot Lilley's rods. I like using a 7-foot rod when I jig and float, a little longer rod, because got a little bit more hook setting power. Yeah, let's just start with that. I debated whether to fish this side or the bluff side, since I've been doing pretty good on the bluff side, and I might even switch over there here in a minute. I'm going to drift down to the resort. Now, the key to fishing a jig and float is to keep your rod tip low to the water and really be conscious of the slack between your rod tip and the float. You don't want a lot of slack. You don't want any slack, because if you go to set the hook, you want to set the hook and not just pull line. If you have a lot of slack in your line and you go to set the hook, then you're not going to set the hook. You're just going to pull your slack in. So if you keep your rod low to the water, if you keep it high, you already got slack. You got a bow in the. But if you keep it low, then you're not going to have that big bow to the water. And then I like to move the float, just kind of jiggle a little bit, give the jig a little extra action. How much or how little, there's just no way of telling you what's too much or too little. You just do what you do, and you might figure it out that they like it moving a lot, or they like it just dead still. Now, there's a little bit of chop on the water right now, so it's moving that float just a little bit, and that in turn moves that jig, so a little chop on the water is good. Colors are important too, jig colors. I always like to use an orange head when I jig and float fish. It's just personal preference. I like a brown and orange head, sculpin orange head, black and orange head, although I don't think we sell any of those. But what I'm looking for is just a little bit of a movement, just a little bob with the float. Sometimes they'll take it under, but usually this is kind of a long float. It'll stand it up a little bit. And you want to set the hook quick. And the depth makes a difference too. If you're not getting bit at a certain depth, you can go a little deeper, a little shallower. Sometimes that helps a lot. Yeah, that, or go try another spot. I've known people to especially if they're running more water than this, like 3 or 4 units. I've known people to use a jig and float and use an 1/8 ounce jig and do pretty good. But I like using that 50th ounce or 32nd ounce. You can use a 100th ounce if you're using bass snapper or another type of jig. That's 100th ounce is probably the most common used. You want something that gets down and stays down, low profile, for the most part, not always. You don't want to throw out a long ways from the boat, so far that you can't see the float, you can't see the movement of the float. If they're not biting very good, gotta throw it back out. If they're not biting very hard, and you just get a little bit of a tap, then you're not going to be able to see that bite if you're too far from the float. So you want to be, I'd say, no more than 20 feet, 25 feet from the boat when you throw out. And again, I'd like to keep the boat going about the same speed as the float. Make adjustments so that you just leave it out there and let it float, let it drift. It's just a little bit chilly out here this morning still. Okay, I'm going to go a little deeper. I don't want to go too much deeper. Well, yeah. Just a little bit. I go about 7.5. If this doesn't work, I mean, if I was out here at it all day and I wanted to figure it out and see what they're biting on, then I'd be changing colors. I'd be changing locations. I'd go over to the bluff bank because I know there's fish over there. Usually there's fish here. But I lose patience with this type of fishing. So I'm probably going to just throw a jig here in a minute if I don't get a bite. I don't figure something out. I don't see anything on the surface, so I don't think they're shallower. Move it a little more, give it more action. Maybe that's something that'll trigger a bite. But you can use beadhead scuds or zebra midges using a spin cast and a float. There's a good fish. Let's try something real quick. Let's go. Let's go a lot shallower. and go a little closer to the bank. Get over in that dead water a little bit. I'm fishing 2.5 feet, maybe 3. That fish that jumped, and there's a couple more down here surfacing. They're a little bit, they're in there in that dead water. So we'll see if there's some fish in here. Nothing's working yet. I'm just about ready to throw a jig. One other adjustment. I'm going to go a little deeper. And still throw up there pretty close. This is really flat water, which isn't ideal for jig and float fishing. It's not possible to catch a fish, but I'd rather have there was a bite. Maybe just a touch. I'd rather have the chop on the water when the water's kind of, well, when it's not moving, and the water I'm fishing in there is just barely moving. So I definitely want to give the jig a little bit of some action. The fish just barely touched that jig, which you still got to set the hook, but he wasn't on it enough to get hooked. I'm down to the pump house. Okay. Time to throw a jig. Because I do like to catch fish. That was instructional. I'm going to back out, get in this water that's running a little bit. 32nd ounce black and yellow jig 2-pound line. Oops. Bill slap shut. Blake said he got out this morning and threw his jerkbait up actually below Fall Creek against the bluff bank. Said he had a couple of decent rainbows, nice rainbows, and had some pretty decent brown trout take some swipes at it. But no fish on, or no big fish on. He was after, of course, a big brown. Get out here a little bit further. Actually be better off going in there and throwing out this way, probably. It's okay. I think they definitely like this current, not that dead water, even though that one fish came up and splashed in that dead water here a minute ago. Got a little wind out of the north, it feels like. Although it's supposed to get up to about 60 today. I really can't see my line. There's too much glare. I can see it just a little bit. Couple more casts. Excuse me. I'm jigging it hard enough that if I get a bite and I can't see it, then it should set the hook in the fish's mouth when I'm jigging like this. Last cast. Just about down to the dock. it sink just a little bit. That might have been a bite. Ah, that might have been a bite too. That. One more time. Well, I can't end it on a miss. Come on. I'm milking it. Okay. Ready to go in? Thanks for watching, guys. Sure appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow. Somebody will see you tomorrow. Probably Blake.